We're your shortcut to, well, getting genuinely well informed. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating stack of insights. It's drawn from a great source that focuses on mastering American English. Our mission, really, for you, is to cut through all the noise. We want to quickly give you practical knowledge, stuff that goes beyond just the basics. So we're going to be decoding some common idioms and phrases, those captivating quirks of language. They often don't mean what they literally say, but they're absolutely critical if you want to truly understand and, be understood in English conversations.
Exactly. And what's really illuminating about idioms is they aren't just words strung together. They're more like cultural shortcuts. They offer a window into a certain way of thinking. So knowing them doesn't just boost your vocabulary. It actually unlocks whole new levels of comprehension. It turns these phrases that might seem vague or maybe confusing into clear insights. And our source material for this deep dive, it's this excellent English learning resource. It gives a broad overview first, lots of common idioms, and then it really drills down into specific examples, vivid ones. That helps make them stick.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that a bit. So this source, it didn't just list a few idioms. No, it gave us this pretty substantial list, 70 common ones, everything from bite the bullet all the way to speak of the devil. It really just highlights how ingrained these are in everyday American chat. You hear them all the time, sometimes without even noticing, their specific idiomatic meaning.
That's so true. And while that big list is a fantastic reference, it's also, it's a lot to take in all at once. So for this deep dive, we're going to zoom in. We'll focus on just a handful that are especially common. And they also perfectly illustrate how these kind of linguistic puzzles work. The source lets us explore these few in more depth. And that's really where you get those aha moments, those real insights. It's not just about the definition, right? It's about understanding the context, the feeling behind them.
Right. So if you're in a conversation and you hear phrases like, I don't know, hit the sack, or maybe jump the gun, how do you actually get from the literal words to what's really being said? And this is exactly where our source helps us out. It helps peel back those labels. These aren't just random phrases, are they? They're kind of like a hidden code embedded in everyday speech. Okay, let's dive into our first key idiom for today. It's go the extra mile. Now, literally, you might picture someone walking a bit further, right? But the source shows it has this much more significant meaning, especially in how we interact with people or at work.
Yeah, that distinction is really key. Going the extra mile means doing more than just what's expected. Simple as that. It's about someone, or maybe even a whole group, putting in, exceptional effort, maybe to help someone or make sure something is done really well, or just to get an outstanding result. And what's interesting is how it taps into that sort of American cultural value. Initiative, exceeding expectations, often tied to ideas of good service, positive impact. The source really highlights this isn't just a casual thing. It's a deliberate choice to make a difference. For example, think about a teacher, someone who consistently stays after class, right? Offers extra help.
Okay, yeah.
That person is definitely going the extra mile. Or maybe a waiter, they notice it's your friend's birthday and they bring out a little cake on
It's nice.
They've absolutely gone the extra mile.
Yeah.
The source even gives this example, Sarah. She always goes the extra mile at work, helping everyone and never complaining.
Yeah.
That just perfectly captures that spirit, doesn't it? That selfless effort. And it works for teams too, like a group that went the extra mile to finish the project early.
That makes it incredibly clear. It's not just doing more work,
Right.
but it's about the why. The intent behind it, really going above and beyond.
Exactly.
It's that extra bit that makes a huge difference. Like the source's example about a mom making a birthday really special, it highlights the care involved, the determination.
Okay, so from extreme effort and dedication, let's pivot a bit. We're moving to an idiom that captures, moments of frustration, the point where your patience just snaps, the last straw. Now, you might think of, a drinking straw, or maybe a haystack.
Yeah, the literal image is pretty off base. The last straw actually describes the final unbearable problem in a whole series of problems. It's that breaking point. The moment someone just says, that's it, I'm done, I can't take this anymore. And this idiom, it actually comes from that older proverb, right? The straw that broke the camel's back, which perfectly illustrates how even one tiny extra thing can be too much if the load is already heavy. The source gives some vivid examples, like imagine a roommate. They're always loud, always messy.
And then one day, they break your favorite mug.
Oh, no.
That's the last straw. Or maybe someone who was always late, but forgetting my birthday was the last straw. It's often the thing that pushes someone to make a big decision. Like, I tried to be patient, but when she lied to me, that was the last straw.
Yeah.
Or even, that was the last straw. I quit the job.
Got it. So it's usually not about one tiny thing on its own.
Not usually.
It's the buildup, the cumulative effect of lots of little stressors. And then one final thing just tips you over the edge.
Exactly.
It's that feeling maybe you're tired, stressed, and then boom, the car breaks down and you just think, okay, that's it. That's the last straw.
Precisely. It captures that critical moment of deciding enough is enough.
All right, let's tackle another visual one. On the fence. We all know what a real fence is, but what does the source say about being metaphorically on the fence in a conversation?
Well, in conversation, being on the fence just means you're undecided. Plain and simple. You haven't picked a side yet. You're kind of stuck in the middle, thinking about the options. It relates directly to making a decision. Could be big, could be small. The source gives some great scenarios like, you don't know if you want to go to a party or just stay home.
Yeah, happens all the time.
You'd say, I'm on the fence about going to the party.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone's thinking about getting a dog. They really want one, but they're not sure they have the time. They're on the fence about getting a dog. It could even apply to bigger group decisions. A team might be on the fence about moving to another city. And notice, it's usually used with about. You're on the fence about something. That specifies what you're undecided on.
Yeah, that really captures that feeling of indecision perfectly. It's a great, efficient phrase, isn't it? You don't need a long explanation. Just highlights that very common human experience. Useful for everything from weekend plans to, well, major life choices. Okay, moving on. Here's one you hear a lot, especially towards the end of the workday. Call it a day. What makes this phrase such a clear signal to, stop what you're doing?
Call it a day basically signals a decision to stop doing something, usually work, for the rest of that day. It's about finishing up for now, bringing things to a close for the current period. But there's often an implication you might pick it up again later. Like if you've been studying for hours, your brain's fried, you can't read anymore.
Been there.
You can absolutely say, okay, I think I'll call it a day. What? The source uses that classic office example. It's 5 p.m. You've gotten a lot done.
Right.
Your boss might say, okay, team, we've done a lot of work. Let's call it a day and go home. It applies to personal projects too. Maybe you've been painting the living room all afternoon and your back starts aching.
Oh.
You definitely say, right, my back hurts. Let's call it a day.
It's a good one. It connects nicely to that idea of knowing your limits, right? Knowing when to rest or recharge, or just acknowledging, okay, enough has been done for today.
Exactly. There's a sense of accomplishment, but also permission to stop.
All right, our final idiom for this deep dive is, it's a steal. Now this one, it definitely sounds a bit suspicious, doesn't it? Like something illegal.
It really does. The wording is quite misleading on the surface, but it's a steal is actually emphatically a positive idiom.
Okay.
When someone says this, they mean something is incredibly cheap, like surprisingly cheap. Such a good price that it feels like you're almost, getting away with something. It's the ultimate bargain. The source gives some great examples, like I bought this new coat for only $20. It was a real steal.
Wow, okay.
Or finding a beautiful dress, maybe on sale, 70% off. Wow, what a steal. And it's not just for new things. Your friend sells you their old bike, works perfectly for just say $50.
Yeah.
It was a steal. Even concert tickets, if they're only $10, definitely a steal. It's all about that perceived value for an incredibly low price.
That's a really important distinction then. It captures that feeling of getting an amazing deal.
Exactly. That thrill.
Doesn't matter if it's brand new or secondhand. It's just about incredible value.
Spot on.
Well, that seems like a good place to wrap up our deep dive into these common American English idioms for today. Understanding these phrases, it really does give you a powerful shortcut, helps you stay well informed, and it adds so much, flavor and nuance to your communication. It's really about getting past just the individual words and grasping that deeper cultural, conversational context.
Absolutely. And this whole deep dive into idioms, it kind of brings up an interesting question for you, the listener. Idioms aren't just, quirky phrases. They offer real insights into how people think, how they communicate in a specific culture. Knowing them means you don't just understand the words being said. You get the underlying intentions too, the emotions, the subtle meanings. So maybe think about this. How many of these idioms do you already hear? Or maybe even use yourself, perhaps without fully clicking with their layered meaning? And now that you have these insights, how might recognizing them actually change things? Change how you interpret conversations? Or maybe even how you choose to express yourself from now on?
That's the real takeaway, isn't it? The power of active listening, understanding context. So I encourage you, actively listen out for these idioms and, well, countless others in your daily life. Try to turn every conversation into a chance for deeper understanding, a chance to unlock a bit more of that hidden code. Until next time.